hit it, but it didn't work. Yeah, so I'm Dorian, and today I'm gonna talk to you about a FogOfWar system that I worked on over the last week plus, but mostly the last week, for a game that I've been working on for now about a year. Currently, the code name for it is Project Visionaries, but just about everything in this game at this point is like up for grabs. It's I'm just experimenting with a lot of core features and just seeing where it takes me. I'm not going to talk too much about like just the general aspects of the game, other than it's a MMORPG and it's a 2D isometric game. Maybe on some other occasion I'll talk to you guys a little bit more about, you know, some design ideas and like where the idea comes from and the team, etc. But just know that I'm like the main developer working on this, and that would be right. Okay. Oh yeah, and it's I put together a little presentation based on GIFs, James.
GIFs.
I don't know what GIFs are. Sorry. Just because like I thought it would be practical for this talk right here, just because I'm actually going to show different states of what I've done over the week, instead of having to like check out an older revision and build it and run it. The GIFs seemed like a really practical tool for this. So a little bit of context. The idea from FogOfWar, from putting FogOfWar into an MMORPG, comes from the moment where I had to make a decision of what do I want to do for implementing a minimap. And I was thinking, is there a way that I could do a minimap without, you know, doing like the kind of like the diamond in the corner of the screen like you see in a lot of isometric games. And I was trying to think from first principles, and I decided, let's experiment with free zoom and see where that takes us. And so what you see here is just like some basic like test map that I'm messing with, and you can just kind of like freely zoom in and out. So started messing with that and came to the conclusion that, the obvious conclusion, I guess, that omniscience is a problem, meaning that you don't necessarily want players to see everything all the time and just get like all of the information. You want to make it a little bit more interesting than that. So my mind kind of went to RTS style FogOfWar. This is from Total Annihilation. It's a game that it's the first game I ever bought actually for PC that I love. Even though obviously the concept of FogOfWar date from earlier than that, but I really wanted to put Total Annihilation in there. And so I started I started building little by little towards that. First thing I did was progressive terrain discovery, using just like line of sight, just kind of like projecting, I guess kind of like raycasting as you could call it. It's just like trying to see, you can see on the right side of the screen, there's like, I'm actually taking into account the walls and stuff to like explore progressively, not just like as an ellipse, but try to take some of the walls into account. Then this one is a little bit harder to see, it's a little too dark, but I don't know if you can see, but there's like you can see a trail here of the discovered terrain that now stays behind the ellipse. So it's like, I called this Ambient Shadows. I'm not sure exactly what it's supposed to be called, or unit fog. But basically the idea is you can only see the units immediately around the character, and then you can see the terrain that you've previously explored behind you. And then the third thing I did is I added some dynamic shadows. So I'm just basically like creating some polygons, again based on wall pieces, and I'm adding those to the ellipse that where you're supposed to be seeing normally. And so the final result looks something like this, where I actually improved what happens with the polygons a little bit. So you can see here's a player and a wall piece that are like, they're both like sitting inside a polygon, and the player disappears, and the wall pieces that are in the other polygon kind of go black or darkish. And I thought that was like, so I haven't really play tested this yet, But I'm kind of excited about doing that because I feel like it's going to add a lot of dynamicity to the combat, a lot of strategy. The vibe that it gives off is a lot closer to what I wanted originally, because you get the sense of exploration and potentially like surprise. Like there could be a monster. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm taking too long. All right, I'm just about at the end. I was just going to talk about what I was going to do next, but the essentially like a bunch of work to make it work on larger maps, and then some improvements to some new features to benefit from those systems at maybe a larger scale inside the game. Yeah, and then there's just a bunch of stuff I wanted to put on screen. So I was pretty much done. Any questions? Yep.
Do you plan to have like the FogOfWar on like all times, or will there be scenarios where it's going to be turned off or made bigger or smaller?
So yeah, I'm thinking it's definitely going to be, so there's going to be like two types of maps, some chill, like safe haven kind of town maps, where that's probably going to be turned off because there's not going to be any combat in there. This is more for like the battleground kind of maps, which is where like you go, you know, farming and grinding and like all the good stuff that you do in MMOs when you're like in active combat.
Follow up.
Yep.
If it's an MMO, sometimes in MMOs you have like these big gatherings with a lot of players.
Yeah.
And I can see if they would be doing it out there in the open, and you have a FogOfWar where you can only see those that are in your radius. It could take away from that if you thought about this.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's really the answer to your question, but the next thing that I really want to do is like start experimenting with parties where people start sharing their own line of sights. Like everybody in the same party would like basically see everybody else's line of sight, and so that would encourage you to do group play and stuff like that. And that's when you get to see more people. Basically, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Yep.
So you had also some rectangles in the back of you. So are you planning to still have this, or will you make a real line of sight so that you see only to the sides and not in the back of you?
Oh yeah, are you talking about the edge of the ellipse?
Yes,
or
because right now sometimes you have some shadows behind you, but you aren't supposed to see behind you anyway if your head is turning into the right direction. So why is there still a line of sight behind you?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure which specific case you're talking about.
Basically, your eyes in the back of your neck currently.
Yes.
You're going for a line of sight, but you still see behind you, which makes it like realism, but not realism.
Oh, okay. You mean like so you wanted to like halve the ellipse or something, so you can see it in the direction that the character is pointing. Yeah. I haven't really thought about it honestly. I just kind of like I don't want to restrict like the playing field too much either. So that's probably why I didn't think of that. But it's actually an interesting idea. Yep. Yep. James.
Oak is asking if there's any obscure inspirations for it in terms of genre and style.
So yeah, my go-to move when I need to implement something I don't know what to do is I kind of think of Diablo 2 first. So like the goth dark thing is something that kind of hits home. And another strong inspiration, because we're probably going to try to go post-apocalyptic in some way, shape, or form, is definitely the early Fallout games.
He says, nice.
Thank you. Yep.
With polygonal line of sight, how are you handling performance with potentially hundreds of shadow clusters?
Yeah, so right now not too well actually, but I don't know if I actually left that on that slide or not. But yeah, like I'm planning on merging the polygons before like testing the tiles, and or simplifying even earlier in the pipeline where instead of casting for like individual tiles, I'm gonna like group up, logical groups of walls and then casting the sides of that.
Sweet. I've looked into that myself, so
All right.
Hit me up.
Okay, will do. Anybody else? Yep.
How far are you in the process? Like when did you start and when do you think you will be finished with it?
So the finish, I have no idea. The start was approximately a year ago, but it's been like 6 to 8 months of like real full-time work for me. I've got some help from especially for the art, and yeah, I'm just gonna have to answer the rest of that question another time. It's just gonna take too long. Oh, sorry. I'm talking to myself. Yeah.